I'm Brenda, 30 years old, and I grew up thinking I had a very close family in a quiet town called Willow Creek. All my life, I was the one who took care of things, while my brother and sister often took advantage. But last Christmas, everything I believed about my family fell apart when I found out they had planned a secret trip without me. The shock of this betrayal changed everything. Let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to choose between family duties and your own self-respect. Growing up in our small house in Willow Creek, I always felt safe in my family's love. My mother, Sarah, taught at the local school, and my father, David, worked as an accountant. We weren't rich, but we had enough. My brother, Tom, is 4 years older than me, and my sister, Lisa, is 3 years younger. From the outside, we looked like a perfect family. Sunday dinners, summer trips to Lakeview, and holiday traditions that never changed. But deep down, our roles were set early on. Tom, the oldest, was the adventurous one, always dreaming big and taking chances. Lisa, the youngest, was the creative, free spirit who seemed to need constant looking after. And me, I was the dependable middle child, the one who solved problems and made peace. When we were kids, if Tom broke a window playing ball, I'd help clean it up before our parents came home. If Lisa forgot her homework, I'd drive back to school with her to talk to the teacher. Being the responsible one became who I was, and for a long time, I was proud of it. As we got older, these childhood roles became even stronger. After college, I got a job at a marketing company and worked my way up, often working long hours and giving up vacations. Meanwhile, Tom tried many different business ideas that never worked out. A coffee shop that closed in 6 months, an app idea he never finished, a delivery service that failed after a year. Every time Tom's ideas failed, he would ask our parents for money. They would use their savings to help him, sure that his next idea would be a success. When their money ran out, Tom would come to me with big plans and promises to pay me back when he made it big. Lisa's pattern was different, but just as tiring. She started art school, then quit after a semester to find herself. Next came cooking school, which she left because the hours were too hard. Then nursing, then teaching, then web design. Each new interest came with requests for tuition, apartment deposits, car repairs, and emergency rent money when she quit jobs that didn't make her happy. Our parents supported both of them, making excuses like, "Tom just hasn't found his path yet," or "Lisa is so sensitive, she needs time to discover her purpose." But with me, the rules were clear. I had to be financially independent, focused on my career, and ready to help whenever the family needed it. By my late 20s, I had lent Tom over $40,000 that he never paid back. I had paid Lisa's rent 6 times when she was between jobs. I had helped my parents with house bills when they used their retirement money to fund Tom's latest business idea. All this while I was paying my own house loan, car payment, and student loans. The bad feelings grew slowly. Each time I got a worried call about an unpaid bill or a tearful request for just a small loan until next month, I felt a little more used. But they were family, and in our house, family always came first. 3 years ago, I met Mark at a charity event for my company. He was smart, steady, and quickly understood my family's situation. On our third date, after I canceled dinner because Lisa needed help moving out of her apartment, her roommates were toxic, Mark gently asked, "Do you realize you're helping them stay dependent?" I brushed off his worries. "They're just going through hard times. They'd do the same for me." But would they? The question stayed with me as our relationship grew. Mark came from a family where everyone did their part. His brother and sister were independent, and family gatherings were about spending time together, not about money problems. Still, I hoped that my brother and sister would grow up, that my parents would set limits, and that we would finally become the truly supportive family I pretended we already were. Every Christmas, we gathered at my parents' house for our usual celebration. Despite everything, I loved these times when we seemed like the loving family I wanted us to be. Last year, Mark proposed after 2 years together. I was overjoyed and immediately knew I wanted to announce our engagement at Christmas when everyone would be together. Despite Mark's worries about my family's reaction, I was sure they would be happy for me. I thought this big news might even help fix our family's problems. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, I spent a lot on gifts, even though my budget was tight. A fancy coffee machine for my parents to replace their old one, noise-canceling headphones for Tom, who complained about distractions at work, and a professional camera for Lisa, who had recently shown interest in photography. I wrapped each gift carefully, imagining their faces when they opened them. I pictured my mother's joy when I showed her my engagement ring, my father's proud tears, my brother and sister's excitement about Mark joining the family. After years of feeling unappreciated, I told myself that this Christmas would be different. I had no idea how different it would actually be, just not in the way I had hoped. December was always my busiest time at work. As the marketing director for our company's biggest clients, I spent weeks finishing year-end projects and getting ready for presentations in January. Last year was especially busy, with 3 new clients in November. Despite the huge workload, I made time to plan the perfect Christmas. Mark and I decided to wait until Christmas Day to announce our engagement, thinking it would be the best part of our family gathering. I even bought a special bottle of champagne to celebrate. "Are you sure you want to share the spotlight with Christmas?" Mark asked one evening. "We could have a separate dinner, make it all about us." "Christmas is when everyone's together and happy," I insisted. "It'll make it even more special." With my usual efficiency, I made a detailed shopping list for gifts. Even though I was on a strict budget to save for our future home with Mark, I was determined to give everyone something meaningful. I spent hours looking for the perfect coffee machine for my parents, comparing features and reading reviews until I found one that would last for years. For Tom, I chose headphones that would help with his claimed focus issues. Lisa's camera was professional grade, giving her the tools to really get into photography if she stuck with it. The gifts pushed my credit card to its limit, but I told myself it was worth it. This Christmas wasn't just about tradition, it was about celebrating new beginnings and making family bonds stronger. 2 weeks before Christmas, I called my mother to plan my usual role in the holiday preparations. "Don't worry about coming early this year, honey," she said, her voice sounding strange. "Dad and I have everything under control." This was unusual. For the past 5 years, I had arrived the day before Christmas Eve to help cook, clean, and decorate. My mother always said she needed my help. "Are you sure? I don't mind coming Thursday instead of Friday." No, she said quickly. "Actually, we're going to be quite busy with church activities. Just come Christmas Eve morning like everyone else." When I hung up, I felt a little worried, but I ignored it. Perhaps my parents were finally seeing how busy I was and trying not to burden me. The next day, I called Tom to coordinate our arrivals. "When are you heading to Mom and Dad's?" I asked. He hesitated. "Probably Christmas Eve, same as always. Want a carpool? I can pick you up." "No," he answered too quickly. "I mean, I might have some last-minute shopping. Don't want to hold you up." Similar talks with Lisa left me more and more confused. She said she was figuring out her schedule and might get a ride with a friend. When I pointed out that she lived in the opposite direction from our parents' house, she mumbled something about making stops along the way and changed the subject. A week before Christmas, I stopped by my parents' house without calling first, with some homemade cookies. I had finished work early and thought it would be a nice surprise. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw my father quickly closing the garage door. Through the gap, I saw several suitcases. "Brenda," excited, "what a surprise," he said, his smile too bright. "Your mother's not home right now." "What's with the luggage?" I asked. "Are you going somewhere?" "Just organizing for the church donation drive," he answered. "These old suitcases have been cluttering the attic." Inside the house was spotless, which was unusual for my parents, who usually left Christmas preparations until the last minute. When I mentioned this, my father shrugged and said, "Your mother's been on a cleaning spree. You know how she gets." I noticed travel brochures quickly shoved under a magazine on the coffee table, but I didn't say anything. As I was leaving, my mother called, and I overheard my father say, "Yes, she just stopped by unexpectedly. No, I don't think she suspects anything." That evening, I told Mark about these strange things. "Something feels off with my family," I said. "Everyone's being weird about Christmas plans." Mark frowned. "Do you think they might be planning something without you?" "No way," I dismissed the thought. "Christmas is sacred in our family. We always spend it together." But the seed of doubt was planted. I found myself checking my brother and sister's social media more often, looking for clues. Tom had been unusually quiet online, and Lisa's posts were vague about her holiday plans. 3 days before Christmas, I got a group text from my mother. Reminder to everyone, Christmas Eve dinner at 6, church service at 9, presents Christmas morning at 10. Can't wait to have all my children under one roof. The message made me feel better. I was being paranoid, letting work stress affect my thinking. Of course we would have our normal Christmas. Of course my family wouldn't leave me out of anything important. When Christmas Eve arrived, Mark and I drove to my parents' house with our gifts and champagne. The familiar sight of my childhood home decorated with colorful lights and the plastic Santa my father had displayed every year since I was born filled me with warmth. Whatever strange feelings I'd been having had to be in my head. My mother greeted us at the door with hugs and comments about how tired I looked. My father clapped Mark on the back and offered him a drink. Tom and Lisa were already there, both looking at their phones more than usual. Aunt Carol and Uncle Bob arrived shortly after us, along with my cousins, Amy and Ben. I noticed them exchange looks with my parents that seemed to mean something. When I hugged Aunt Carol, "It's so good to see you, dear. We've missed you at family gatherings." This struck me as odd. I had attended every family event in the past year. During dinner, conversation flowed, but it felt somehow practiced. Everyone asked about my work, but changed the subject when I asked about their plans for the week after Christmas. Tom avoided eye contact, and Lisa seemed unusually interested in the table decoration. After dinner, as we got ready to leave for church, Lisa realized she'd forgotten her phone in the kitchen. She asked if I could grab it while she put on her coat. Always the helpful sister, I agreed. In the kitchen, I found her phone on the counter. As I picked it up, a notification flashed on the screen. A group text that included my parents, Tom, and several other family members. The preview showed just enough. Flight confirmed for 10 a.m., 12:26, everyone packed. My heart sank. I told myself there must be an explanation. Maybe they were planning a surprise for Mark and me, but why wouldn't they include me in the planning? With shaking hands, I returned Lisa's phone and said nothing. Throughout the church service, I sat in a daze, barely hearing the familiar songs as questions spun in my mind. What were they planning? Why was I left out? Should I confront them now or wait? That night, as Mark and I settled into my old bedroom, I whispered my discovery. "You need to ask them directly," he advised. "Don't let this ruin our engagement announcement, but don't let it go either." I nodded, determined to enjoy Christmas morning despite my growing worry. Whatever was happening, I would deal with it after our special moment. I had no idea that by the next afternoon, I would be driving away from my childhood home with tears streaming down my face. My trust in my family was broken beyond repair. Christmas morning was bright and cold. I woke early, worry churning in my stomach, but forced a smile as Mark and I joined everyone downstairs. The living room looked perfect, twinkling lights on the tree, presents arranged beneath it, the smell of cinnamon rolls baking. My mother had even put out the special Christmas plates we'd used since I was a child. "Merry Christmas, everyone," my father boomed, giving out cups of coffee. Tom looked tired, slouched in the armchair, while Lisa sat on the floor near the tree, already sorting gifts into piles. "Let's get started with presents," my mother suggested. "Brenda, why don't you hand them out like you used to when you were little?" I played along, determined to keep the Christmas spirit despite my unease. One by one, I gave out gifts, saving the special ones I'd brought for last. When everyone had a small pile before them, we began opening them in our family's traditional youngest to oldest order. Lisa unwrapped my gift first, lifting the professional camera from its box. "Wow," she said flatly. "It's the one you were looking at online," I prompted. "Remember, you said it would be perfect for nature photography." "Oh, right, thanks." She set it aside without looking at the features I'd spent hours researching. Tom's reaction to his noise-canceling headphones was similarly unexciting. "Cool, thanks, Bren," he mumbled, barely looking at them before moving on to the next gift. My parents showed more excitement for their coffee machine, but I caught them exchanging a glance that seemed almost guilty. My own gifts were thoughtful but oddly impersonal. A generic sweater from my parents, a gift card from Tom, bath products from Lisa. Nothing that showed they had put much thought into what I might actually want or need. As the unwrapping finished, I squeezed Mark's hand, signaling it was time for our announcement. He nodded encouragingly. "Everyone," I said, standing up, "Mark and I have some news to share." All eyes turned to me, and for a moment I felt the familiar warmth of being surrounded by family. "We're engaged." I held out my hand to show the vintage sapphire ring Mark had given me. He proposed last month, and we wanted to tell everyone together on Christmas. There was a moment of silence before my mother rose to hug me. "Congratulations, honey. That's wonderful news." My father shook Mark's hand. "Welcome to the family, son." Tom raised his coffee mug in a half-hearted toast. "Congrats, you guys." Lisa smiled tightly. "The ring is pretty." Their reactions felt quiet, almost distracted. No one asked about wedding plans or how Mark had proposed. No one suggested opening the champagne I'd brought. After a few minutes of awkward conversation, my mother announced it was time to prepare Christmas dinner. "I'll help," I offered automatically. "No need," she replied. "Lisa's already helping me." In the sudden rush of activity, Lisa left her phone on the couch. A notification lit up the screen, and without thinking, I glanced at it. It was a message from someone named Island Trip that read, "Final reminder, meet at airport 8 a.m. tomorrow. Don't forget passports and sunscreen." My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone, and before I could stop myself, I opened the message thread. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. It was a group chat including my parents, Tom, Lisa, Aunt Carol, Uncle Bob, and my cousins. Everyone present at our Christmas gathering, except Mark and me. The messages detailed plans for a 10-day family vacation to a tropical island, leaving December 26th. They'd been planning it for months, coordinating flights, sharing hotel information, discussing activities. One message from my mother read, "Remember, not a word to Brenda. She's so busy with work anyway, and we don't want her to feel left out." Tom had replied, "She'd probably just say she can't come because of some deadline." Lisa's response, "Plus, she'd bring Mark, and this is supposed to be just family." Just family. The words burned into my brain. Apparently, I was family when they needed money or help, but not when it came to making happy members together. When Lisa returned and saw me with her phone, her face lost all color. "Why are you going through my phone?" she demanded, snatching it away. "Why are you all going to the island without telling me?" I countered, my voice shaking. The room fell silent. Mark moved to stand beside me, his hand on my shoulder in silent support. My mother came from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "What's going on?" "I know about the trip," I said. "The one you've been planning for months. The one everyone here knows about, except Mark and me." My father stepped forward, his face a mix of guilt and stubbornness. "Brenda, it's not what you think." "Really? Because it looks like my entire family planned a vacation together and deliberately left me out." "We didn't exclude you," my mother insisted. We knew you were busy with work, and we didn't want to make you feel bad about not being able to come. So instead of inviting me and letting me decide, you all lied to my face for months?" Tom shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "You're always so busy with work anyway. We figured you wouldn't want to take the time off." "And we wanted a real family vacation," Lisa added, then flinched at her own words. "A real family vacation?" I repeated slowly. "So Mark and I aren't real family?" "That's not what she meant," my father quickly said. "It's just that with your work schedule and Mark's family duties, planning for everyone would have been complicated." "Complicated?" I echoed, the hurt in my chest turning into anger. "More complicated than planning this big lie? Than making sure no one slipped up and told me? Than clearing your internet history so I wouldn't see your vacation research?" No one answered. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. Aunt Carol cleared her throat. "Since July, I think. 6 months. For 6 months, every talk, every family dinner, every text message had held this secret. And who's paying for this trip?" I asked, though I already guessed the answer. The uncomfortable glances between my parents and siblings confirmed it. "Tom, when you borrowed $3,000 from me in September for business equipment, was that for this trip?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "I was going to pay you back." And Lisa, when I helped you with rent in October because you said your hours got cut, was that so you could save for this vacation? She looked at the floor, saying nothing. Mom, Dad, that plumbing emergency you needed help with last month, was there even a leak? My mother's eyes filled with tears. Brenda, please understand. We just wanted a nice family vacation. Without me, I finished for her. You're making this a bigger deal than it is, Tom complained. It's just a trip. It's not just a trip, I said, my voice breaking. It's the fact that you all went out of your way to hide it from me. It's the fact that you used me for money to fund it. It's the fact that none of you considered for a moment how this would make me feel. We did consider your feelings, my father insisted. That's why we didn't tell you. We didn't want you to feel left out. The twisted logic was almost funny. So instead, you deliberately left me out. How does that make sense? No one had a good answer. The room filled with awkward silence, broken only by my mother's quiet sniffling. Mark squeezed my shoulder. I think we should go, he said softly. I nodded, suddenly tired. We're leaving. Enjoy your vacation. Brenda, don't go like this, my mother pleaded. It's Christmas. Yes, it is, I agreed, and I just found out what my family really thinks of me. Best gift ever. As Mark and I gathered our things, my family's excuses continued. They hadn't meant to hurt me, they'd planned to tell me eventually, they'd bring me a souvenir. Each word only made the wound deeper. I walked out of my childhood home without looking back, the carefully wrapped presents I'd brought sitting forgotten under the tree. In the car, Mark drove in silence while I stared out the window, tears streaming down my face. My phone buzzed with messages from my family, but I couldn't bear to read them. They used me, I whispered. All these years, they've been using me. Mark reached for my hand. What do you want to do? I closed my eyes, the weight of years of unequal treatment crushing down on me. I don't know yet, but I know things can't go back to the way they were. As we drove away from my past, I had no idea that this painful discovery would lead me to the strongest decision of my life and eventually to a freedom I never knew was possible. The week after Christmas passed in a blur of sadness and anger. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years, unable to face client meetings while my emotional world fell apart. Mark brought me tea and sat with me through tearful nights, never once saying, "I told you so," about my family's behavior. My phone filled with messages I couldn't bring myself to read. Notifications from social media showed my family's vacation photos, sunset beach walks, fancy resort dinners, smiling group pictures with everyone wearing matching tropical shirts. Each image was a fresh wound, proof that they were having the time of their lives while I dealt with the betrayal. You should block them, Mark suggested gently on the third day, after finding me sobbing over a photo of my parents and siblings on a boat trip. I need to see, I insisted. I need to understand what was worth lying to me for months. But looking at their smiling faces only made my confusion and hurt deeper. How could they enjoy themselves, knowing what they'd done? Did I matter so little to them? On New Year's Eve, while Mark and I sat quietly at home instead of attending the party we'd planned, I finally opened their messages. From Mom, "Brenda, please don't overreact. We love you and never meant to hurt you. Call me when you've calmed down." From Dad, "Your mother is upset. This vacation was her idea to bring the family together. Don't ruin it for her." From Tom, "Seriously, sis? Drama much? It's just a vacation. I'll pay you back when I get home." From Lisa, "I'm sorry you found out that way, but you're being super dramatic right now. Not everything is about you." Not a single real apology. Not one message that recognized the real issue, that they had planned to leave me out while using my money to pay for their trip. I threw my phone across the room, startling Mark. "They still don't get it," I said, fresh tears streaming down my face. "They think I'm overreacting because I wasn't invited on vacation. They don't understand that it's about the lying, the manipulation, the taking me for granted." Mark picked up my phone, checking that it wasn't broken. "Maybe they can't see it because it's been the pattern for so long. You've always been the responsible one, the giver, the fixer. They don't know how to relate to you any other way." His words hit me like a sudden truth. He was right. Our family dynamic had been set in stone since childhood. Tom and Lisa took, my parents allowed it, and I provided. I never truly challenged this pattern, always giving in to the pressure to be the dependable daughter, the generous sister. The next day, I started therapy with Dr. Eleanor Green, a family specialist Mark had found for me. In our first session, I poured out the Christmas story and years of background. What I hear, Dr. Green said carefully, is that you've been given a role that no longer serves you, but your family resists any attempt to change that role. Why? I asked. Why can't they see how unfair it's been? Because the current system works for them, she explained. If you change your role, everyone else has to change too, and change is uncomfortable. They're going to push back hard to keep things the same. Over the next few weeks, Dr. Green helped me see that the Christmas incident wasn't just one event, but the result of a lifetime of imbalance. She encouraged me to write in a journal about other times when my family had taken advantage of my kindness. The list was painfully long. Tom borrowing my car for 6 months during college, returning it with a broken transmission he couldn't pay to fix. Lisa ruining my favorite dress before an important interview, then saying it was just clothes. My parents expecting me to host and pay for Thanksgiving dinner last year because they'd spent their holiday money on a weekend trip with friends. As January went on, I slowly returned to my normal work routine, but my way of seeing things had completely changed. I checked my bank statements and credit card history, calculating exactly how much money I'd given my family over the years. The total was shocking, over $70,000 since I'd started working full-time. What could I have done with that money? Mark and I had been saving for a down payment on a house, delaying our plans because my money was constantly being used for family emergencies. I could have taken the international vacation I'd always dreamed of, or paid for more education, or simply built a more secure financial future. The anger that replaced my initial hurt made things clear. I began to see that my willingness to always say yes hadn't actually helped my family. It had allowed them to stay dependent and entitled, which wasn't healthy for any of us. In late January, my family returned from their island trip. My mother called immediately, leaving a voicemail that managed to sound both worried and annoyed. "Brenda, this silent treatment is childish. We need to talk about what happened. Call me back." I didn't. Instead, I sent the voicemail to Dr. Green, who pointed out the subtle manipulation, making my need for space seem childish, making the issue about my response rather than their actions. A few days later, Tom texted, "Hey sis, I need to borrow $600 for rent. Things are tight after the trip. I'll pay you back next month for sure." The nerve was unbelievable. No mention of what had happened, no real apology, just another request for money. In the past, I would have sent the money immediately, accepting his empty promise. This time, I simply replied, "No." His response came within seconds. "What do you mean, no? I need it by tomorrow or I'll get late fees." "That's not my problem," I wrote back. "Figure it out yourself." The flood of texts that followed ranged from disbelief to anger to trying to make me feel guilty. How could I leave him hanging? What kind of sister was I? Did I want him to get kicked out? I turned off my phone and went to dinner with Mark, who raised his glass in a toast when I told him what I'd done. "To setting boundaries," he said. "It's about time." The next day, my parents called my office line, knowing I would likely answer a work call. "Brenda, your mother is very upset," my father began without warning. "I'm upset too, Dad." "Look, we made a mistake not telling you about the trip. We apologize for that, but it's time to move forward as a family." "Have you actually thought about why I'm hurt?" I asked. "Has anyone in our family considered that this isn't about a vacation, but about years of being taken for granted?" "That's not fair," he protested. "We've always appreciated you." "Appreciation isn't just words, Dad. It's actions. It's treating someone with respect. It's not lying to them or using them." He was silent for a moment. "What do you want from us, Brenda?" It was the first real question anyone in my family had asked since this began. "I want you to understand why this hurt me so deeply. I want them to admit that our family dynamic has been unbalanced for years. I want real change, not just empty apologies so we can pretend everything is fine." "We can discuss all that at family dinner," he suggested. "Your mother's planning it for Sunday." Despite my doubts, I agreed to go. Perhaps a face-to-face conversation was what we needed to break through the cycle of hurt and defensiveness. When Sunday arrived, I drove to my parents' house alone, having asked Mark to give me space to handle this myself. My stomach churned with worry as I parked in the familiar driveway. Inside, the scene was artificially normal. My mother's special roast in the oven, the dining room table set with the good plates, everyone dressed as if for a special event. Tom and Lisa were already there, both looking at me warily as I entered. "Brenda," my mother embraced me as if nothing had happened. "You look thin. Have you been eating properly?" Dinner began with forced small talk, work updates, neighborhood news, comments about the unusually warm weather. No one mentioned the island trip or the tension that clearly hung in the air. Finally, as my mother served dessert, my father cleared his throat. "We're all here because we need to address what happened at Christmas and move forward as a family." I waited, hoping against hope for a real conversation about the deeper issues. "Brenda," he continued, "we understand you were hurt by not being included in the vacation plans. We should have handled it differently, and we're sorry for that." My mother nodded, seriously. "We never meant to hurt you, honey. We just didn't think you'd be able to take time off work, and we didn't want you to feel bad about missing out." It was the same shallow explanation they'd given at Christmas. Nothing had changed. "That's not good enough," I said. "What do you mean, not good enough?" Tom interrupted. "They said they're sorry. What more do you want?" "I want you all to understand that this isn't just about the vacation. It's about years of being treated like the family ATM. It's about the fact that I've given and given while you've all taken and taken." "That's not true," Lisa protested. "We're family. We help each other." "When have any of you helped me?" I challenged. "When have you sacrificed for me the way I've sacrificed for all of you?" The silence was deafening. "Let me be specific," I continued, pulling out my phone where I'd written notes. "Tom, in the past 5 years, you've borrowed over $40,000 from me without paying back a cent. Lisa, I've covered your rent 6 times and paid for 2 separate college programs you dropped out of. Mom and Dad, I've helped with your house bills repeatedly when you've used your money helping these 2. My family exchanged uncomfortable glances. Now, let me ask again, when have any of you helped me? "We've given you plenty," my mother insisted. "We helped with your college tuition." "You contributed $5,000 to my tuition," I corrected her. "I worked through college and took out loans for the rest. Meanwhile, you paid Tom's tuition in full, and you're still paying Lisa's student loans." "That's different," my father argued. "They needed more help than you did. You've always been so capable." "So I'm punished for being responsible, for working hard, for making good choices?" "Nobody's punishing you," Tom scoffed. "You're just better with money than we are. And that makes it okay to treat me like your personal bank?" The conversation was quickly getting worse, with everyone talking over each other, denying my side, making my feelings seem small. "I've made a decision," I announced, cutting through the noise. "I'm no longer giving financial support to any of you." The room went suddenly, completely silent. "What do you mean?" Tom asked, his voice tight. "I mean exactly what I said. No more loans, no more paying bills, no more financial help of any kind." "Whew. You can't be serious," Lisa said, her eyes wide with alarm. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." My mother's hand went to her throat. "But what about family helping family? What about being there for each other?" "I'm still happy to be there emotionally, to spend time together, to build a healthier relationship. But the Bank of Brenda is permanently closed." "But my rent is due next week," Tom blurted out. "I was counting on you." "Of course you were. You'll need to figure it out yourself," I said calmly, "just like you figured out how to fund an island vacation." The mood shifted instantly from disbelief to panic. My financial support, which they had taken for granted for so long, was suddenly at risk, and with it, their comfortable lives built on my sacrifices. "You're being selfish," my father accused, anger replacing his earlier calm tone. No, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm refusing to be selfless to the point of hurting myself. There's a difference. Is this because of Mark? My mother demanded. Has he turned you against your family? The suggestion that I couldn't make my own decisions was infuriating. This has nothing to do with Mark and everything to do with how you've all treated me. He simply helped me see what I should have recognized years ago, that this isn't a healthy family dynamic. So you're choosing him over us? Lisa said bitterly. I'm choosing myself, I corrected her. I'm choosing not to be used anymore. As the reality of my decision sank in, the conversation got even worse. Tom accused me of being heartless. Lisa cried about possibly losing her apartment. My mother spoke of family loyalty and tradition. My father threatened that I would regret cutting ties with family. I'm not cutting ties, I clarified. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. But they couldn't or wouldn't understand the difference. In their minds, my role was fixed. I was the provider, the supporter, the one who sacrificed. Any change from that role was a betrayal of family itself. After an hour of arguments that went nowhere and rising emotions, I stood to leave. I love you all, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it despite everything. But I can't continue in this pattern. It's not healthy for any of us. If you walk out that door, my father warned, don't expect things to go back to normal when you come to your senses. That's exactly what I'm hoping for, Dad, I replied, because normal is the problem. As I drove home, my phone exploded with messages. My mother claiming I'd given her an anxiety attack, Tom calling me selfish, Lisa saying I was dead to her. The harsh words were painful but also revealing. Their reactions confirmed what I'd begun to suspect. Their love was conditional, dependent on what I could provide rather than who I was. The next few weeks brought more attacks. Extended family members called to try and talk sense into me. Aunt Susan insisted I was tearing the family apart over money. Uncle Paul suggested I was being brainwashed by that boyfriend of yours. Only Cousin Amy remained supportive, calling to say, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I wish I had your courage. The pressure was intense, but I held firm. With each attempt to manipulate me back into my old role, my resolve grew stronger. The family I had longed for, one based on mutual respect and real care, clearly didn't exist, and no amount of self-sacrifice on my part would create it. As spring went on, the direct attacks turned into more subtle manipulation. My mother sent photos of family gatherings I hadn't been invited to with captions like, "Missing our complete family." Tom forwarded job rejections with notes like, "Guess I'll be homeless soon. Hope you're happy." Lisa posted mysterious social media updates clearly aimed at me, complaining about finding out who your real friends are in hard times. Each attempt to make me feel guilty showed again that I'd made the right decision. They still didn't understand or care about the real issue. They just wanted the financial support to start again. In therapy, Dr. Green helped me deal with the ongoing fallout. What you're experiencing is an extinction burst, she explained. When a behavior that was previously rewarded suddenly stops being rewarded, the behavior often gets stronger before it finally stops. They're trying everything to get you to return to your old role. Will it ever end? I asked, tired from the constant emotional attacks. Yes, she assured me. When they truly understand that the old pattern is gone for good, they'll either adapt to the new reality or they'll distance themselves. And if they choose distance, then that's valuable information about the true nature of your relationship. Her words were hard to hear, but undeniably true. If my family couldn't love me without financial strings attached, perhaps what we had wasn't really love at all. As the confrontation phase continued into early summer, I focused on strengthening my chosen family, friends who valued me for myself, not what I could provide. Mark and I moved forward with wedding plans, deciding on a small ceremony with people who truly supported our relationship. The lines had been drawn. I had taken my stand. But the most difficult test of my resolve, and the true breaking point that would decide the future of my family relationships, was yet to come. The breaking point came in late June, nearly 6 months after the Christmas discovery. I was at work when my mother called, her voice unusually soft. "Brenda, I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began. I miss you. We all do. Can we please try to move past this? Her tone seemed sincere, without the blaming edge of previous conversations. For a moment, hope flickered within me. Perhaps they were finally starting to understand. I miss you too, Mom, I admitted, but moving forward requires more than just pretending nothing happened. I know, she said quickly. We made mistakes. The vacation, the way we've relied on you financially, it wasn't fair. It was the most acknowledgement I'd received from any family member. My throat tightened with emotion. That means a lot to hear, Mom. So, you'll come to Sunday dinner this weekend? Everyone will be there, and we can start fresh. I hesitated, wary, but wanting to believe in the possibility of change. I'll think about it, okay? I need to check with Mark about our plans. Mark, she repeated, her voice cooling slightly. You know, Brenda, I sometimes wonder if he's the one who put all these ideas in your head about us using you. And there it was, the manipulation hiding beneath the apparent attempt to make peace. The flickering hope died out. Mom, I'm a 30-year-old woman with my own mind. My decisions are my own. Of course, honey, she quickly changed her words, but the damage was done. Just think about Sunday, okay? We miss you. After hanging up, I sat at my desk, a strange calm settling over me. That call had made something essential clear. The surface might change, but the underlying pattern remained. They wanted the old Brenda back, the one who would give endlessly without questioning the imbalance. That evening, I created a spreadsheet, carefully listing every dollar I'd given my family over the years. I included dates, amounts, stated purposes, and whether the money had been paid back. Almost never. The final total was shocking, $73,428.19 over 8 years. What could that money have bought? A down payment on a house, a big part of my student loans, financial security during uncertain times. But the financial cost, while large, wasn't the most important calculation. The next day, I created a different kind of spreadsheet, an emotional balance sheet. On one side, I listed what I'd given my family emotionally: constant support, priority in my schedule, emotional effort, unconditional acceptance of their choices. On the other side, I listed what I'd received: conditional love, criticism disguised as concern, dismissal of my feelings, betrayal of trust. The imbalance was even more striking than the financial one. Mark found me staring at these spreadsheets late that night. Are you sure you want to do this? He asked gently. Quantifying relationships can be painful. I need to see it clearly, I explained. I need to understand exactly what I've been sacrificing and what I've gotten in return. And what will you do with that information? I took a deep breath. Make a final decision about my boundaries going forward. Over the next few days, I talked with 3 people: Dr. Green, my oldest friend Chloe, and a financial advisor named Sarah Jones. Each gave a different view of my situation. Dr. Green helped me explain what healthy family relationships should look like and agreed that mine were far from that standard. Chloe, who had known me since college, reminded me of specific times when my family had taken advantage of my kindness while criticizing my choices. Sarah outlined the financial effects of continuing to support my family versus focusing on my own financial health and future with Mark. By Friday, I had made my decision. I would not attend Sunday dinner. Instead, I would draw a clear, firm line that could not be crossed or manipulated. I spent Saturday writing an email to my entire family, parents, siblings, and the extended family members who had gotten involved. I revised it many times, removing emotional language and using clear, direct statements. Mark read the final version, suggesting only a few small changes for clarity. On Sunday morning, at the exact time I would have been driving to my parents' house, I sent the email. Subject: My decision regarding our family relationship. To my family. After careful thought, I am writing to clearly state my decision about our relationship moving forward. I will no longer provide financial support of any kind to any family member. This includes, but is not limited to, loans, gifts, bill payments, co-signing, and emergency help. This decision is final and cannot be changed. I have recorded $73,428.19 in financial support given over the past 8 years, most of which was given with the understanding it would be paid back. I am officially forgiving these debts as I know they will likely never be repaid. However, this forgiveness comes with the understanding that no future financial requests will be considered. I am open to building a new relationship based on mutual respect and honest communication. However, this cannot happen until everyone admits the patterns that led to this point. I will not pretend that the Christmas incident was just one event, rather than part of a long-standing pattern. For the immediate future, I am setting the following limits. I will not attend family gatherings where my feelings and views are ignored. I will not take part in conversations that try to make me feel guilty or manipulate me. I will block anyone who continues to send manipulative or hurtful messages. I love you all and hope that we can eventually build healthier relationships, but that cannot happen without big changes in how we interact. Brenda. The response was immediate and overwhelming. My phone exploded with notifications, texts, calls, voicemails, emails. I silenced it and placed it in a drawer, allowing myself not to deal with their immediate reactions. Later that evening, when I finally checked the responses, they followed predictable patterns. My father was coldly angry, writing, "I never thought I'd see the day when my daughter would put money above family. Your mother is devastated." Tom went between rage and panic. "You selfish, what am I supposed to do about rent now?" Followed by, "Please, Brenda, I'm desperate. Just this one last time." Lisa went straight for emotional manipulation. "I can't believe you're doing this to us. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Is this really the person you want to be?" Extended family members expressed shock and disapproval, with Aunt Carol writing, "Family helps family, period. This isn't how you were raised." But there were also unexpected responses. Uncle Bob, my father's brother, wrote, "I understand more than you might think. It took courage to set these boundaries. Give everyone time to adjust." And most surprisingly, my cousin Ben sent a private message. "I've watched how they've treated you for years. It wasn't right. I admire you for standing up for yourself." The most telling reaction came the next day, when Tom showed up without calling at my apartment, pounding on the door and shouting. Mark moved to answer it, but I stopped him. "Let me handle this." Through the door, I called, "Tom, I'm not opening the door while you're behaving this way. If you want to talk calmly, text me, and we can arrange a meeting in a public place." "You can't hide from family," he shouted. "You think you're so much better than us with your fancy job and perfect boyfriend, but you're nothing without us." His words were painful, but also clarifying. This wasn't about love or real connection. It was about control and access to my money. "I'm calling building security," I informed him calmly. "Please leave before they arrive." He did, but not before sliding a note under the door with just 5 words. "You'll regret this decision forever." I picked up the note, feeling strangely calm. "Actually," I said to the empty hallway, "I think this is the first decision I won't regret." The next weeks brought increasing attempts to break my resolve. My mother left tearful voicemails about how I was killing her with worry. My father sent formal emails about my family duties. Lisa created social media posts clearly aimed at me, complaining about how some people forget where they came from. Each attempt reinforced that I'd made the right decision. They still didn't understand, or chose not to understand, the basic issue. They saw me as a resource to be managed, not a person with valued feelings and boundaries. With the help of my financial advisor, I carefully removed my financial connections to my family. I closed shared accounts, removed my name from co-signed loans that had been paid off, and canceled automatic payments I'd set up for various family expenses. It was like untangling a complex web, one that had been woven over years of being too involved. Each strand removed felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The family pressure reached its peak when my parents involved our family's longtime pastor, Reverend Miller, who called to express concern about my hardened heart. "Brenda," he said gravely, "forgiveness is at the core of family life." "I have forgiven," I replied, "but forgiveness doesn't mean allowing the same patterns to continue. It doesn't mean being a doormat." "Your family is struggling without your support," he pressed. "Surely, as a good person, you feel called to help those in need." "Reverend Miller," I said carefully, "would you advise an alcoholic's family to keep providing alcohol? Because that's essentially what you're asking me to do. Continue allowing behaviors that harm everyone involved, including those doing them. He had no response to that. By August, the intensity of the backlash began to lessen. The daily flood of messages slowed to occasional attempts. My mother's tone shifted from blaming to accepting. My father's from demanding to distant. Tom and Lisa, forced to find other solutions to their financial problems, communicated less often. The most telling sign came when Lisa posted on social media about her new job at a coffee shop with a caption, "Sometimes you have to do what you have to do." It was the first job she'd held for more than a month in years. Tom, according to mutual friends, had moved to a smaller apartment and taken on a roommate. My parents, facing the reality of no longer having my financial cushion for their retirement, had talked to a financial advisor of their own. They were adapting, just as Dr. Green had predicted they might. Without access to my money, they were finding ways to support themselves. The irony wasn't lost on me. My selfish decision had actually forced them into greater self-reliance and responsibility. As summer turned to fall, I experienced something unexpected, relief mixed with real sadness. Relief that the constant drain on my money and emotions had stopped. Sadness for the family I had always wanted but never truly had. Through therapy, I came to understand that this sadness wasn't new. It had been there all along, hidden beneath layers of hope and denial. I wasn't mourning a lost relationship so much as admitting a truth I'd long tried to ignore, that the loving, supportive family I'd tried so hard to create through sacrifice and compromise had existed only in my imagination. By October, nearly a year after the Christmas that changed everything, Mark and I had saved enough for a small down payment on a condo. Without the constant financial demands from my family, our savings had grown surprisingly quickly. The day we signed the mortgage papers, I felt a deep sense of accomplishment and freedom. This milestone, which had seemed forever out of reach while I was supporting my family, had become possible in less than a year of financial independence. That evening, as we toasted our new home with champagne, Mark asked gently, "Any regrets?" I thought about the question seriously. About the condo? Absolutely none. About your family? He clarified. I looked around at the small but charming space that was truly ours, bought with money we had earned and saved, representing a future we were building together. My only regret, I said finally, is that I didn't set these boundaries years ago. As I prepared for my first holiday season without contact with my immediate family, I felt both nervousness and a quiet confidence. The path I had chosen wasn't easy, but it was right for me. And for the first time in my adult life, that was the most important priority. 1 year after the Christmas that changed everything, I stood in the kitchen of the condo Mark and I had bought, arranging cookies on a platter for our holiday gathering. The guest list included friends from work, Mark's brother and sister-in-law, my cousin Amy and her husband, and a few neighbors we'd become close to. "Need any help?" Mark asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "I think I've got it under control," I smiled, leaning back against him. "Hard to believe it's been a year." "You've come so far," he murmured, kissing my temple. "I'm proud of you." His words warmed me because they were true. The journey from last Christmas to this one had been challenging but life-changing. With the help of therapy, supportive friends, and the clear understanding that comes from distance, I had rebuilt my life around healthier relationships and stronger limits. Dr. Green had been key in my healing process. Our weekly sessions had changed from dealing with problems to deeper work on my patterns and beliefs. I learned to recognize and challenge the guilty thoughts that came up whenever I put my own needs first. I practiced saying no without giving reasons or apologies. "Your mental health has improved greatly," she noted during our session earlier that week. "When we started, you were having panic attacks and sleeping poorly. Now you seem balanced and calm." She was right. The constant tight feeling I'd carried in my chest for years had gone away. I slept through the night more often than not. The constant feeling of not being good enough, of never doing enough, never giving enough, had faded. Professionally, I'd also done very well. Without the emotional drain of family drama, I had more energy and focus for my work. I'd been promoted to senior marketing director with a team of 8 reporting to me. The boundaries I practiced in my personal life helped me become a better manager. I gave tasks to others effectively instead of doing everything myself, and I spoke up for my team's needs rather than just agreeing to every client demand. Our new holiday traditions had grown naturally. Instead of the formal, tense gathering at my parents' house, we hosted a relaxed, open house where friends could drop in throughout the day. Instead of expensive gifts meant to impress, we organized a fun gift exchange. Instead of my mother's strict menu, we created a potluck where everyone brought a dish that represented their own family traditions. "The ham smells amazing," I told Mark, checking the oven. "Your grandmother's recipe was definitely the right choice." "She'd be thrilled to know we're using it," he said. "She always said food is how you build new families." New families. The phrase captured exactly what I'd been creating over the past year. A chosen family built on mutual respect and genuine care rather than duty and guilt. I still received occasional updates about my biological family through extended relatives and social media. The updates confirmed what I'd hoped might happen, that my stopping financial support would ultimately benefit everyone. Tom, faced with the reality of supporting himself completely, had taken a steady job at an insurance company rather than chasing quick money schemes. According to my cousin Amy, he'd been there 6 months and was doing well. "He actually seems less stressed," Amy reported during a coffee date. "He's not constantly scrambling for money or pitching new business ideas. He just goes to work, collects his paycheck, and pays his bills like a regular adult." Lisa had surprised everyone by not only keeping her coffee shop job, but also returning to community college with a clear plan. She was studying hospitality management and paying for it herself through a mix of work, scholarships, and carefully managed student loans. "She seems more confident," Chloe told me, "like she's actually proud of what she's accomplishing instead of just drifting." My parents had moved to a smaller house, admitting that their previous lifestyle had been financially impossible without my contributions. My father had delayed retirement by a few years, and my mother had taken on extra tutoring work to add to their income. These changes hadn't been easy for any of them, but they were necessary adjustments to reality. My financial support had been a crutch that stopped them from developing their own strength and ability. Removing it had been painful, but ultimately helpful. Our relationship remained distant, but was slowly changing. After months of manipulative messages and guilt trips, my mother had finally sent an email that showed a hint of understanding. "I've been thinking about what you said regarding patterns in our family. While I don't agree with how you've handled things, I can admit that we relied on you too heavily. Your father and I are working with a financial advisor now to plan for our retirement without burdening you or your siblings. I hope someday we can find a way to be family again without the financial aspect." It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the deeper emotional issues, but it was a start, an admission that the previous dynamic had been wrong and unsustainable. I responded with a brief but polite email, thanking her for reaching out and expressing hope for continued growth and understanding. We weren't ready for in-person meetings or holiday gatherings, but the door was slightly open for a new type of relationship in the future. Tom and Lisa remained more resistant to change. Tom had sent a Christmas card with a stiff note saying he was doing fine without any help. Thanks. His pride was clearly still hurt. Lisa followed me on social media from a new account, but never commented or messaged directly. These small gestures showed the painful truth about family healing. It happens at different rates for different people, and sometimes complete reconciliation is impossible. I had made peace with that reality, understanding that I could only control my own actions and responses, not anyone else's journey. The doorbell rang, stopping my thoughts. Our first guests had arrived. As the condo filled with friends and chosen family, the contrast with last Christmas couldn't have been more striking. Instead of walking on eggshells, I moved freely through my own space. Instead of faking happiness to cover hidden tension, genuine laughter filled the rooms. Instead of measuring my worth by what I provided, I was valued simply for being myself. After dinner, as we gathered in the living room for dessert, Amy raised her glass. "I'd like to propose a toast to Brenda and Mark for creating this beautiful new tradition and for showing all of us what it means to build a life on your own terms." Glasses clinked as warm eyes met mine around the room. In that moment, surrounded by people who truly saw and appreciated me, I felt a deep sense of coming home, not to a physical place, but to myself. Later, after the last guest had left and Mark and I were cleaning up, he asked, "What are you thinking about? You've got that thoughtful look." I considered the question as I rinsed a plate. I'm thinking about how sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most growth. A year ago, I was devastated about losing my family. Now I understand that I didn't lose them. I found myself. He nodded, understanding as always. And in finding yourself, you created space for relationships that actually nurture you instead of draining you. Exactly. I placed the last dish in the dishwasher and turned to hug him. I learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. That real love doesn't demand you give up your self-worth. That sometimes the strongest family bonds are the ones we choose, not the ones we're born into. As we turned off the lights and got ready for bed, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey hadn't been easy, and it wasn't completely finished. There would always be complicated feelings about my family of origin, occasional moments of sadness for what might have been, but I had discovered a deep truth through this painful process. That the ability to set boundaries, to demand respect, to value myself, these weren't acts of selfishness, but of self-preservation. And in preserving myself, I had created space for real connections based on mutual care rather than duty or usefulness. The Christmas lights twinkled outside our window as I drifted toward sleep, Mark's steady breathing beside me. I was no longer the family ATM, the reliable fixer, the endless giver. I was simply Brenda, whole, worthy, and finally at home in her own life. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect your peace and self-worth? Did it lead to unexpected growth or healing? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength through life's challenges. Remember, sometimes the hardest choices become our greatest blessings. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and may you find the courage to create the life and relationships you truly deserve.